Welcome to the Evolve Exchange. Today's episode, we've got our guest Ross Clinch from Focus Group joining me, Courteney Kettyle, and Paul Fletcher to talk about all things global. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at Focus Group, please, Ross?
Yeah, absolutely. So my role at Focus Group is head of proposition for UC and CCAS. So I work within the voice and data pillar, and our roles and responsibilities are very much looking after the portfolio, making sure the portfolio, the go-to-market strategy, the sales enablement is designed in such a way that it solves the outcomes that our customers and our prospects are currently facing in the marketplace.
And for those who don't know who Focus is, can you explain what their area of expertise are?
Yeah, absolutely. So Focus Group are one of the UK's largest business-focused MSPs. And our mission is very much to help businesses solve challenges with the deployment of strategic, secure and highly integrated technology. And that technology spans from voice across IT, cybersecurity, CX technologies and mobile.
And how did the partnership between Focus Group and Evolve IP come about?
So Evolve IP were the partner that always said yes. So the vendor that said yes. So when we had a requirement that was a little bit left field that our kind of traditional portfolio stack didn't suit or couldn't fulfill, Evolve IP tended to say yes. And that was because I think your portfolio is so granular and API heavy that it enables us to do things that other vendors can't do.
And are we still saying yes?
You are still saying yes, Paul. Absolutely. Absolutely. When it counts.
And when we're saying going global, local reach with a global vision, what does that mean to you?
As an MSP, we're not necessarily targeting international business. But the nature of our customer base and the nature of the marketplace at the moment, and there's a lot of M&A activity, and that means that actually our long-standing customers are becoming global customers where they're acquired by maybe an international business. Suddenly we need to be able to fulfill a requirement that we didn't have to before. And having a vendor in portfolio that enables us to have that global reach while still looking after our local customer base is absolutely imperative.
International deployments, there is a lot of regulation that you need to get your head around. There's a lot of differences by region on what actual technology you can deploy or what kind of voice technology you can allow to leave country. For the Middle East, for example, don't allow a lot of SIP out of the borders.
Yeah.
What have we done? What have Focus done that's allowed you to remain agile, really, I guess, in those kind of marketplaces?
So, as you say, international deployments and international business is absolutely rife with regulation and caveats and complexities. Evolve IP and the fact that you partner with specialists in that regulatory piece, I know certainly from our standpoint, it gives us comfort that the information and the advice that we get from Evolve IP is accurate. We're not going to come unstuck. You're not going to come unstuck. And most importantly, our customer's not going to come unstuck. If we say we can do something, we've typically scoped that requirement with you. The beauty of Evolve IP's offering, as you well know, is that for those countries where you can deliver PSTN breakout and you can deliver numbering services, fantastic, we can do it nice and neatly. For those where we can't, where maybe we need to be a little bit more creative, the SBC as a service and deploying local SBCs has enabled us to kind of bring your own SIP in some scenarios where the customer can retain their existing relationship. And there's countries that are maybe more highly regulated than others, but still bring that region and bring that office into the wider global solution.
Cool. In terms of endpoints internationally, do you see more one delivered over the other? Is WebEx more widely adopted than Teams or vice versa? Hardware, is that relevant really in an international world?
I would say for the most part it's Microsoft Teams. For those companies with global ambition that we've seen, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a lot of WebEx and a lot of Cisco business out there, but our personal experience so far is there's been a lot of Teams. That seems to be somewhat the path of least resistance for those Microsoft focused organizations. So if you look at just thinking of our largest international deployments, the vast majority of them have some element of Microsoft Teams within them.
I guess Microsoft is an easier worldwide adoption, right? If we think about when we were at school, what platform did we have to grow up on? It was Microsoft environment. They do that very well, giving free education license out worldwide. Everybody grows up in an MS world. So I guess that's the more widely adopted technology. It's less barriers to sale if you can offer it in a Teams environment, because 9.5 times out of 10, that's the ecosystem that is going to be adopted, irrespective if it's you acquiring international businesses or international businesses acquiring you. Primarily, Microsoft is going to be the driver of the tech stack internally anyway. So,
absolutely, and that's what we've seen. However, I think where Evolve IP really offers value is the fact that we can utilize that Microsoft stack for the vast majority of users, but there's always some outliers that want something a little bit different.
Yep.
And we've had some deployments recently whereby there was a warehousing requirement. So we needed a multi-cell deck, we needed a loudspeaker tannoy within that warehouse space. We could do it with Evolve IP by mixing that blend of licenses. Another interesting one we had recently was Microsoft Teams at the core, but they wanted to retain the US-based Avaya. So we had SIP links from Evolve's core back into the US-based Avaya. And actually they had also rolled a trading turret solution into the mix as well. So we had to SIP link into that. So Evolve's core infrastructure lent really well to that scenario where we could have that Microsoft environment, but also bring in those other more kind of traditional voice solutions.
So again, I guess that kind of goes back to one of my first questions around sort of being able to remain agile with one central core, but the fact that you can actually still pull in all the different strands of our tech stack, even though, it could be the US, a little bit in Europe, Asia Pacific, and the UK. You can still offer the whole portfolio.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. And if you look at again some recent solutions, it's always Microsoft Teams blended with something. Mm-hmm. And I think customers quickly realize that as good as Microsoft is as an endpoint, look, Teams is a great collaboration tool, don't get me wrong, but there are shortcomings in its voice functionality. Yeah. So being able to underpin that with the rest of the Evolve IP stack, whether it's handsets in a retail store or whether it's trading turrets or a tannoy system in a warehouse, having the agility to deploy those on a single platform is absolutely key for us.
Yeah, and not to speak for them, but that's probably what Microsoft want.
I would imagine so.
They probably don't want to become a comms provider. There's enough of us out here that have done it for long enough.
Exactly.
But yeah, if they can gain the market by being the endpoint of choice, otherwise they wouldn't have products like direct routing, Operator Connect, Teams. Everything would just be centralized. So
very much so.
Like you say, it's a kind of a three-way relationship in that kind of.
How does combining local expertise with global technology benefit your customers?
As I touched on, it's the fact that we can support customers in their global ambitions. So maybe they never expected to be an international company, but a market became available to them. They had a silver bullet where actually they could move into a market and see massive success. To be able to support those customers on that journey and give them options is absolutely key.
How has partnering with Evolve IP expanded what you can offer?
So the great thing with partnering with Evolve IP is that the portfolio is, excuse the pun, ever evolving. So we know that we can deliver core telephony functionality. We know we can support Microsoft Teams endpoints and Cisco WebEx endpoints. And it's the innovation that you bring into market now. So vendors such as TalkDesk, your strategic vision kind of very much aligns with ours in terms of that UCaaS is fantastic and we've all made a very good living off it, and it continues to be the bread and butter of what we do. But actually moving forward strategically, it's the customer experience piece, it's the CX piece, it's automation, it's delivering time savings, cost savings, enabling customers to self-serve, which is going to be the focus of probably most of the industry into 2026. Yeah. And the fact that you're making those strategic partnerships has enabled us to kind of move forward strategically too.
Yeah, I guess as well, some of those tech stacks, the TalkDesks, the WebEx environment, and apologies, and everyone can shout at us for mentioning it because I haven't touched on it yet in this podcast, but AI, right? TalkDesk is very AI heavy. WebEx has AI tendencies built in. Teams obviously with Copilot, but in an international world, okay, yeah, you may not have to actually deploy internationally to be internationally, right? You could have international numbers pointing into a UK-centric talk desk environment, but you may be deploying that into Italy and not necessarily employing Italian native speakers, but with talk desk and AI, with live translation, that kind of allows growth in another way as well.
Yes, absolutely. So it's very much enabling those organizations to do more with less. So you don't necessarily have to have additional heads to grow your team. You can have automation do that. AI can handle that. You don't necessarily have to employ native language speakers because you have that translation functionality built within the technology. So it's very much leveraging the tools that AI is affording us to deliver those outcomes for customers. We're trying really hard to not sell AI.
Yep.
We are delivering an outcome, and to deliver an outcome, you really need to understand the challenges that your customers are experiencing. So that's very much our focus at the moment.
Cool. And I guess that comes from just being an extended arm to the solution, right? It's not right. Yeah, here's a product, and this is what it's going to do for you. It's sitting down, having a conversation of going, right, what is the worldwide view of you as a business? What are you looking to work with? What are you looking to expand to in the future? What areas of business or countries around the world are you going to look at? And going, actually, right, okay, we can start here, but slowly grow organically without having too much drastic change. Like, you're investing at point A in a technology stack that will grow with you at a pace that suits you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about the discovery. It's all about understanding your customers' pain points, their strategic direction, their foreseeable growth, what they're striving to do with their business and do for their customers, and delivering solutions that will enable them on that journey.
How do we work together to innovate or deliver consistencies for clients?
We've had a massive collaborative win recently with a global retailer. And that was, I would say, probably the epitome of successful collaboration. They came to us actually off the back of it wasn't even a voice opportunity to begin with. It was off the back of an SD-WAN opportunity. But voice was a part of what they wanted to do. Evolve IP fit the bill, not only because it was an international deployment. So this was 500-600 stores across the vast majority of mainland Europe. We covered most of those countries. I think when people think, oh, I need a vendor that can help me internationally, you immediately think of numbers, calling, PSTN breakout, which absolutely is the core of what that international piece is. But actually, it's the nuances that sit behind that. So it's, can we program a handset to be in a different language? Can we program the voice packs for voicemail and menu items into a different language? How do we do that at scale? How do we deliver that at scale? How do we program that at scale? And the vast majority of vendors we work with don't have the ability to get that nuanced. When we look at this particular deployment, Evolve IP spent a lot of time with our technical teams understanding the breadth and depth of your API stack to enable us to essentially build 600 sites across mainland Europe via API call. But that API call also set the language, set the time frame. We built out bespoke handset profiles. So we delivered the correct language packs and the correct languages for menus into the handset itself. And that's just taken it to a whole nother level. Yes, you could do the numbering. Yes, you could do the PSTN breakout. But when we think about international deployments, it's the practicalities around that. How do you deploy it? Is a key element. If you're deploying 600 sites across mainland Europe, you're not going to be using your own technical resource. You're not going to be using your own engineering. Unlikely. So actually, if you're using third-party engineering, what other considerations are there? Security is a massive, massive consideration. Do you want to be giving a third-party engineer the keys to the castle, essentially, in terms of access to your global phone system? The answer is always going to be no. Nobody's ever going to want to do that. So we spent a lot of time working with the Evolve IP engineers, our automation teams, to build out an engineer-facing GUI that gave them just enough access to do what they needed to do, to pick up a handset, look at the MAC address, assign it to a site so they could rock up on site, install it flawlessly without having to give them the keys to the castle. And it's those considerations outside just numbering and PSD and breakout that really matter when you're looking at international partnerships and international business.
I also guess in terms of just the nature of the size of opportunity as well, it just shows how both parties, Focus and Evolve, went that extra step for that customer experience, because they don't want to invest in employing engineers or flying engineers around Europe or even further afield, and again pushed by Focus, but with the yes of Evolve IT, we've created a really seamless customer journey and customer experience that has hopefully provided extra value for you as a brand into that new logo business.
100%. The relationship's in a fantastic place, and that's been helped by making it easy for the customer. When the customer says, I want handsets delivered to X site in X country, right, do we have a distributor that has warehousing in that country or in that region, so that actually they don't need to pay for import tax for handsets that have come from a UK warehouse. It's those types of considerations, and it was working alongside Evolve IP, which enabled us to say yes to pretty much everything we've been asked to do so far throughout this process.
How are customers' expectations evolving right now?
With the increase in tax, with the increase in national insurance, customers are being really pressured to do more with less. So they don't have the resources, they don't have the ability to hire more heads that they might have had in the past. So delivering seamless and flawless customer experience and customer service without building your team really lends to the technology that we're seeing at the moment, the automation, the self-serve capabilities, the layers of AI that enable us to better understand our customer satisfaction and sentiment. All of those technologies blended together enable us to get a better view of the customer, deliver a better service to the customer without necessarily having to have additional headcounts. We've had a lot of conversations about quality assurance recently, and listening to call recordings. Listening to call recordings is nigh on impossible at scale. We've worked with customers that have full quality assurance teams doing this day in, day out, 24/7. They listen to around 5 to 10% of calls. You're never going to get a clear understanding of your customer's sentiment, happiness, contentment by doing it manually. So this is where we're starting to see those AI technologies really come into their own. So you can get ahead of problems. You can have happier customers. You can create happier customers and reduce churn, because churn alongside higher taxes and higher national insurance is going to be a killer for SMEs.
Yeah. And I guess that's kind of full circle. It comes back. How do I achieve all of that? It's it's easy enough to say it, but how do I achieve it all? And it comes full circle back to the discovery, the solution. Understand, what do you want to achieve? How can I then achieve that? And that could be outside of just telephony as well, right? And focus with your whole tech stack can really build. As you said about the retail one, that came off a requirement for data. You deliver a good CX on that, it expands into other opportunities, and being that sort of well-rounded MSP or reseller now, it's every pillar builds upon the other pillar, and everything can bring you more opportunities, but you're only going to do that by the original piece of discovery. What are you wanting to achieve? Right, great, I can deliver that with this, or this. Mix and match, a la carte, be sort of coming with fresh ideas. You need to be, and that's the big differentiator, isn't it? In terms of, if you can come with a magnitude of solutions to one or multiple issues that they may be, or pain points that they're experiencing, you make yourself a much more valued advisor within that sales cycle. That they could be 10 people at the moment, but they could grow to be 1,500. And you've got in there early enough, and you've understood that actually, they've always wanted to go from 10 to 1,500. I've understood that. I've put the right technology in front of them from day one to allow that growth to spiral.
Absolutely. I think our mantra kind of over the past few months and moving forwards is very much customers don't go to market to buy products. Customers are going to market because they have a challenge or they have a problem that they're trying to solve. And it's understanding that problem, understanding the impact of that has on their business. And actually, if we can solve that for them, what outcome does that deliver them? Because if we can go in and be that trusted advisor, solve their problems, you create much more loyal customers. And in this industry, as all others, churn is probably at an all-time high.
Yep.
So if you can ensure that you're not engaging with your customers in a transactional way, transactional business doesn't build loyal relationships. Where if you can go in, if you can be that trusted advisor, if you can solve your customers' challenges with the implementation of these scalable, secure technologies, then you'll have a customer for life. That's a much better position to be in.
Yeah, and that kind of relationship, that referenceability, that kind of look at me relationship kind of that you can achieve is just as good at reducing your churn as it is as also attracting new logo.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I think everybody in this industry knows that it's a lot more difficult and it's a lot more costly to win new business than it is to retain your existing customers. So the emergence of these new technologies is well timed, right? We're all sitting on a fantastic base of existing customers that we want to deliver the best possible service, and we want to be that strategic technology partner, being able to go in and be the expert in the room with not just UCaaS, but now the CX automation piece. It puts us in a really good position to help our customers continue to win.
Where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth in 2026?
So the biggest opportunities for growth that we're seeing is probably within our existing customer base, to be honest. We have an extensive base of UCaaS customers, UC customers, long-standing voice customers. That's very much been the core of what we've done over the last 20 years and what we've built over the last 20 years. So it's taking those customers on the next stage of their journey. Yes, we've delivered fantastic UC functionality and UC solutions, but the market's changing. The challenges that our customers are experiencing have evolved over the years. So it's ensuring that we get in front of them with solutions that are going to help them solve their challenges, that enable them to grow, enable them to reduce their customer churn, and enable them to see an increase in revenue without necessarily having to increase headcount.
And I guess their requirements have changed from the day they signed up with you. Like,
100%.
you know, as much as the market's evolved, we have evolved, folks have evolved. Naturally, they're going to, and it's not coming back and just revisiting a sales cycle because you've got something new and shiny. It's going, right, proactively, I guess. I've seen you've now moved CRM platform from X to Y. Did you know we had integrations available? Or sowing that seed from day one so they know that they can come and drip feed that buying circle from you.
Absolutely, yeah. And as we all know, there's some resellers out there that will churn their entire base across multiple platforms year on year on year. It's never been our strategy. We want to support customers on their journey. And as and when we have technologies that will deliver enhanced value to our customers, that's the point where we go, look, let's have a conversation. Let's understand your challenges, how they've evolved, and actually, is the technology stack that you currently have still suitable, or are you experiencing challenges that this current tech stack doesn't solve? Let's kind of investigate the next stage of that journey. Yep.
What is your biggest learnings working internationally?
There are caveats upon caveats upon caveats. The level of regulation and the fluidity of that regulation can trip you up in a heartbeat. And we've had an extremely successful relationship with Evolve IP, especially around international. But every now and again, there's still a last minute regulation change that takes us all slightly by surprise. So the absolute key element when dealing with international business is setting your customers' expectations. We can do this, but and it's ensuring that everybody has that understanding throughout the procurement chain to make sure that, look, if a local operator in said country changes regulation at the last minute, we will do everything within our power to make the necessary amends and to get the approval and to get the regulations to enable us to work within those new parameters. But things take time, and it's that really is the biggest challenge, is keeping up with those regulations.
Yeah, I think we've experienced it on a couple of deployments that we've worked on together. That the minute you've signed something, everything is perfectly happy. You come and do that number porting, and you need to supply 7 more documents that are exactly the same thing. And I think you're right. It's keeping an open dialogue, keeping open expectation, and just trusting yourselves and the advice that you get. And like you say, if you can keep that buyer close to you through that whole journey, and it's not like, yep, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be, and then you come back to him and go, cool, it's now delayed because we need a copy of your passport and your proof of address and which could quite easily happen. And as you say, particularly in Europe, the regulation is changing country by country quite rapidly. And a sort of Evolve IP are constantly going through our own accreditations with these countries, so we are continually able to keep providing numbers in those countries. But yeah, you're right. It's be patient with it as well, I think, is the other message.
And I think it's the messaging that we push into our sales teams as well. There are practices within international telephony that you could have done 5-10 years ago, presenting an international number to get a better pickup rate in a country that you're trying to sell into. We all did it. It was the absolute favourite of recruitment firms 5-10 years ago. But regulation just means you can't do it anymore. Yeah. So there's an element of us as a business understanding what we can and we can't do and where we need to sit in terms of regulation. But it's ensuring that our salespeople are imparted with that knowledge so that when they're having that conversation with the customer, they can set expectations from day one. You might have done that in the past. We can't do that anymore because of X, Y, Z regulation. Because as soon as you promise something, you'll be held to account for it. Yeah. So it's really making sure that the messaging from us into our sales teams aligns with the regulatory work that you as a vendor have done.
And I guess it makes that conversation easier for your sales guys if they know they are talking facts and they're 100%. Not just spinning and they're not just going, oh yeah, we can't do it because of it's as long as they have got the cold hard facts behind them, and they can go, look, it's just not possible. Okay, yeah, you did it 10 years ago, you did it 5 years ago. You can still do it now with X, but at the end of the day, it's going to last 3 months, and then it'll be disconnected, and you won't be able to have a service at all.
Exactly.
Take your time, do it properly, be accredited. You're not going to have an issue, and you're going to have a thriving international business.
Exactly that. And that, as we've said numerous times throughout this chat, comes back down to really accurate discovery and scoping of the customer's requirements. Yep. If it looks like they're trying to do something that we shouldn't really be doing, that's the time to say, you know what, I appreciate what you're trying to do. We can't do that anymore. It's not within our parameters.
Sometimes, as much as we say yes to everything, no is often quite safe.
Knowing when to back out of a deal is often the most important thing.
And where can listeners find out more about Focus Group?
So you can head to focusgroup.co.uk, which is our main group website. You'll be able to find out information about not only the group, around our technologies, around our vertical specialisms. We have Think Healthcare, which is our primary care speciality. We have Focus on Hospitality, which is our new hospitality specialist team. As well as the fantastic work that Focus Foundation have done, which is our charitable arm.
That's all for today's episode on the Evolve Exchange. Thank you, Ross Clinch, for joining me, Courteney Kettyle, and Paul Fletcher on our latest episode. We'll be back soon with our next guest to keep the conversation going.